Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Survivor Stockwatch podcast. I'm your host, Taran Armstrong, and I'm here this week, of course, to recap the episode here of Survivor, the merge episode this time, a 2-hour episode of Survivor, and also rate the players based on how well we think they're doing. With me this week to do it all is Chappell. How you doing, Chappell?
Taran, I'm good. I'm excited. I am very confused because there was a lot going on in that episode. But normally when I get confused about the things that are happening on these reality TV shows, I tune in to Taran's update and he tells me everything I need to know. So I'm getting the first-hand account, the right here in front of Taran. He's going to explain it to me like I'm 3 years old because I could be mistaken for a 3-year-old sometime. And we're going to get to the bottom of all of this. I'm ready.
Yeah, and I promise you, we will not give you a snow job.
I don't think she would come back and give us a snow job.
I promise.
Now look, a snow job sounds suggestive, Taran.
I don't know what you're talking about. Snow job sounds fine to me.
I don't know. It sounds.
It's a job of
like
snow.
A job of snow? Really?
Yeah.
That's what we're going with? Yes. I was like, a snow job? Oh my God, heavens, Mike. And then I was like, oh, well, okay. Whatever.
Well, yeah, he tells Chanelle. It's
You think I believe Dan's snow job?
Think I'd believe Dan's snow job?
A snow job. It's just, story. Just say, do you think I believe Daniel's lies, story, his account of the story? This snow job sounds nasty to me. I don't know. I'm no Jacob Jones, but
in my head, I'm just picturing he shoveled Mike's driveway.
Right, and in my head, I'm not picturing that. So we're just gonna move on and like maybe just find a different term for that. I love Mike, but I was like, whoo, snow job.
Well, he says that Dan's snow job was
Expected, no. Surprise, no.
No, that wasn't actually about Dan's snow job. That was about Chanelle voting for him, which he's upset about. We kind of expected that he might be upset about that, but what are you gonna do?
Well, how did you feel about the way Chanelle tried to fix that? Damage control does not seem like it's her strong suit, because in my head, I'm thinking, if I'm Chanelle, I'm saying, well, if Daniel played the shot in the dark, obviously I would have gone home. So I put a vote on one of you at random, because then we could tie it up at the very least, and then, or something like that. And then it wouldn't be me, or something like that. I would just throw something out there. Hell, I don't know. But she was just like, I thought you were teaming up with them or something. And he's like, no, what are you talking about?
I thought you believed Dan's snow job.
Yeah, I thought the snow job worked. I thought, it was an effective snow job. And he's
watched you over there with him. I saw the snow job happening. I was like, I don't know. I feel like he's believing it.
It looked like an impressive snow job from my point of view. I just feel like Chanelle, you gotta come harder than that, because this Mike is going to be self-interested, and he's not going to want to just take whatever BS you're feeding him, and so I was not surprised to see that he was not okay with this.
Yes, and I like how we set this up here. Let me get this out of the way. I loved this episode, this 2-hour episode. I thought it was fantastic. I think that there was a lot of great storytelling involved. Just subtract the Hourglass, and it's a perfect episode in my eyes. But I love how we set up the tribes here in the beginning, showing Chanelle's on the outs on this tribe. They're like back, and High is like, guys, can we please just get along?
Please. Yeah.
And then we go over to Ika, and they're also a mess.
Every time I turn around, there's Tori bothering me.
Yeah. Well, they're not a mess. The thing is, High's tribe has pretty much identified, if it comes down to it, we can throw Chanelle to the wolves. And then Ika's tribe is saying, if it comes down to it, we can throw Tori to the wolves. And I'm like, yes. Figure out a way to move forward with the stronger team. That makes sense. But the story, the way they told this story, it was, here are the people who are probably in danger. And now throughout this 2-hour period, we're going to show you why they're not going home. And it's just and every time you're thinking, well, it's probably Chanelle now. Oh, she's safe. Oh, it's probably Tori now. Oh, not going to be Tori. So then by the end of the episode, you're just like, well, who is it going to be? And it's just flipping and flopping. I enjoyed the episode as well.
Yeah, this was like the Big Brother Canada 10 of Survivor episodes, where it really was around every corner was another twist. Jeff told us.
This is going to be a fun day.
No, you were right, Jeff.
I was going to say, if it's like Big Brother Canada, does that mean you get the Hourglass and you just don't use it? You know, like you go through all of that, and then you're like, "Do I smash it? No, that's not going to help me. I'm
Well,
not going to do that."
not for Rocksroy is too predictable for that.
Predictable.
He's predictable. And as we all can predict, the hourglass is always going to be smashed. Because Jeff was like, all right, we've tweaked it this time. We've heard the feedback. No, they did, because they filmed it back. But we've heard what we imagined the feedback was, and we've fixed it. This time, we're making it so it's like kind of a little tiny bit their choice, so that we can really extra blame them for it when we lie to them and screw them over.
Right. And there was feedback, because Danny definitely cussed him out that day. You know, on
True.
season 41, there's no way he left that tribal council without getting talked crazy to. And so he's like, yep, we've heard the people. The people have spoken, and I have to do this thing because Danny McCray is scary, you know? But yeah, I like Jeff breaking the fourth wall and pretty much apologizing for that, and then saying like, and the biggest twist of all, Applebee's. It's like,
yes.
Okay, you got it, Jeff.
First of all, the food is from Applebee's. That's big, that's emotional, that's home, that's hard to turn down.
That's not even the best one, because then later.
It's good, it's big, it's Applebee's.
I love Applebee's.
Yeah, I love Applebee. It's big, it's juicy, it's fat, it's girthy, it's Applebee's. Like, what? Jeff, does Applebee's know you're describing their food like that? What happened to, like, it tastes good? It is, like, a fun for the family. He's like, no. It's sexy. It's toy like a tiger. It's Applebee's. Like, Jeff, what are you talking about?
I haven't heard this, Jeff, this worked up since grilled cheese.
Grilled cheese back at camp.
I would rather have grilled cheese than Applebee's, personally. Yeah, just throwing it out there. And yeah, look, you have the perfect person here for this moment. Like, I know in the past we had Karishma, it's iconic. Like, I love Applebee's, it's my favorite restaurant. Just lies, lies, lies. But then now you have Marianne, who is going to react in just a similar way. I mean, like, fall out into tears. I love Marianne for that kind of emotional range, you know, to be able to go there, but not for Applebee's. You got to cut that out.
They're responding to Applebee's like Applebee's is the Beatles, and not the Beatle that was on Rocksroy, the band. And it's so ridiculous. It's just,
it's good, it's big, it's Applebee's.
Like, could you imagine the family visit and showing up, and then they don't even react like that to you? They're like, "It's your mom." Like, oh my God, mom. It's like, but it's Applebee's. Woo! Like, oh, look, calm down. Just a pinch. Act like you've been somewhere.
see, if we were really going Big Brother Canada, it would be, it's your mom. Hey, who are you?
Yeah.
And it would be Wendy's too.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's very fun, and I love.
First of all, the food is from Applebee's. That's big.
It's big.
That's emotional.
It's emotional.
That's home.
It's
That's
home.
hard to turn down.
It's hard to turn down.
Is it? Like, you know, could you imagine being like, it's home, it's hard to turn down, and Rocksroy's hand goes up slowly. I'm not a big Applebee's fan. You ain't got nothing else? Got any Wendy's? You know, like any chance you got? Like maybe like Chili's. It's like Applebee's, but like it's a pinch better, just a pinch better. But no, Jeff is all in. I don't know how much money Survivor gets for the placement for Applebee's, but it's clearly like they're paying the bills here. For
If we were playing Family Feud. And like
top
the
five
thing
answers
was
on the board.
Applebee's, and it was like, how would people describe Applebee's? Where do we big, emotional, home, hard to turn down? Are any of them even on the board?
No, not at all. Not at all. Not even close. It's hard to turn down. That will give you negative points. They're like, oh, we have to take some points for you. That's 2 strikes. You hard to turn down. Okay, Jeff. That's fine. That's fine.
And home, like, is Applebee's home?
Not my home. Like, you know, like
I feel like I've been to, like, take this for what it's worth. I feel like I've been to Applebee's maybe like twice in my life, and both times were when I was a child. And very much my image of Applebee's as a child is very definitively not home. It's eating out.
I would actually like to go home. You know, Applebee's is not disgusting by any means. It's not disgusting, but it's just not. It does not elicit this kind of response at any point ever. So it's like, I mean, like I'm sure there are like people, the unhomed or like the very starving people or something that like will go up for Applebee's. These people been there for what 16 days maybe. They not look.
This is day 12, I believe, or no,
day 12.
The merge was day 12, right? So yeah.
Yeah. Day 12, 13, and they're going up for Applebee's like, you know, like they haven't eaten in years. I mean, maybe for High, who is literally starving because they won't give them anything else to eat except for, like, they're not giving them any rice. But everybody else who doesn't have any dietary restrictions should be like, oh, thank you. This is great. Applebee's. I like that. But to, like, pass out onto the ground and all this crying and carrying on, I'm like, you don't need all of that. It's big. It's girthy. It's Applebee's. We get it.
Yeah, well, Romeo is hungry.
I'm power hungry.
He's power hungry.
Yeah. Did you enjoy Romeo in this episode?
I enjoyed Romeo. I really liked Romeo and High together. I thought that was a great conversation. But then I did feel like Romeo was one of the parts of the episode that I felt was the weakest in terms of them showing us where he was strategically. Because the last time we heard from Romeo, he was like tight with Drea, and they had blindsided Rocks with the Swathi vote. And then we come into the merge, and he's like bonding with High, and Drea's getting in with people, and all of a sudden Drea's like, yeah, Rocks is my guy, and Romeo's on the outs. And he's power hungry, and he's trying to get Jonathan out, and he seems to be completely out of the loop, and it's like, what happened there?
Right. Well, there's a moment where Romeo is talking to Marianne, and it's basically like, look, we got to stick. The little people got to stick together. We're smaller. These big competition threats are going to be around. And I think maybe somebody picked up on it. Maybe Drea and High and some of these other bigger people started looking and say, he's not really hanging with us. He's really like going to the smaller people, you know, the people who you probably wouldn't target at the merge directly, and saying, hey, just in case, you know, we can get Jonathan, we can get Drea, we can get Rocksroy. You know, he just probably start to lean towards the more physical threats. I don't know if Rocksroy counts yet. I haven't seen a lot of them to know, but you know, Drea and Jonathan are very clearly like physical threats. And so I can imagine that once everybody got there, they could see him moving a lot, you know, differently, as opposed to Rocksroy, who we know it's predictable. You know, he's probably came there, sat down, and didn't talk to anybody really. And so I think that's probably what's happening there.
Yeah, I mean, Drea seems to have come into this merge with Romeo, Rocksroy not there, and was like, yeah, I've got a great pal with me that I want to bring into the alliance. Oh, you're with Romeo? No. The one that's the one that you can't talk to for a couple of days. Rocks.
Right.
He's my guy. He's predictable.
I'm predictable.
Yeah,
he is, and she wasn't wrong. She's like, look, Rocksroy's gonna have my back, but I really do feel like maybe Romeo has been moving around a little bit differently. Like, I mean, him and Drea were attached at the hip. So if you get to the merge and there's other fun people to talk to, and they're not attached at the hip, it becomes painfully obvious. And so maybe that's part of it. But I did enjoy Romeo here, the Romeo and High segment, where it was like two queer people of color on the same tribe, talking to each other. Like, you don't get those moments a lot on Survivor. I don't know if you've ever gotten that exact moment ever before. And so, you know, that was pretty cool. So for representation and stuff like that, it was dope to see Romeo playing. But you're right, I do think they kind of got lost in the shuffle this time.
Yeah, especially because like this big group that comes together, it's a group of 8. It's got 3 people from Taku, it's got 3 people from Vati, and then 2 people from Ika. But it's like Romeo's right there. Like, what is happening?
Yeah, and Romeo's name never comes up as a threat at any point in this episode. And so it's 2 hours. If you manage to keep your name out of stuff, like, that's really good. But you know, if you are too under the radar, then you might have a problem getting the votes at the end.
So we get the Hourglass competition. It's the second you see the teams, it's like, okay, so which one is Jonathan? That team is gonna win, which means they're gonna lose. Jeff does have some commentary during the challenge.
Slides on the butt, that'll leave a mark.
Slides on the butt, that's gonna leave a mark. You don't want to slide on the butt. Jonathan gets a moment here. I can't remember the last time this has happened. He gets like the full-on like Survivor theme to kick in during this challenge.
Jonathan, watch out behind you. Jonathan is up. An amazing move by Jonathan.
Wow. Whoa.
That's That's an edit for you. They're letting you know that win or lose, this is Survivor guy. This is the guy that Jeff thought he was when he when he started doing drugs way back in the Marquesa. This is the guy who appeared. Jonathan was probably 3 years old doing 100 pull-ups a day and eating 18 eggs, but he came to Jeff in a vision, and Jeff is very happy with his Jonathan content.
Yeah, it's Jeff created this man in a lab. A lab of psychedelic drugs, and here he is ready to sing the Survivor theme as he dominates challenges.
Right. And the funniest part about Jonathan and the challenges was that there's a moment where Marianne is working on the puzzle and Jonathan tries to help, and she's like, no, stop it. Like, sir, please, you've done enough. The physical part is over, Jonathan. Please have a seat. I got this. Yeah. And I was like, he did count 13 triangles at one time, so let's not get carried away. He does have some weaknesses. But I like that the show is highlighting Jonathan and his amazing physicality, but also it's very heavy-handed. It's like, Jonathan took a step like I've never seen a step taken before in step history. This is the step he is stepping. Like, we get it. We understand, Jeff. He's good. He's physical. He's a good guy.
He's good. Yeah, and his team is gonna win. And Jeff is really like, and here we go. We've warned them. Who do you want to send? They are gonna have a big old power, and they're like, yeah, we still want Rocks.
Yeah, still, yeah, because you have Tori on that tribe, and she has no love for Rocks, and you have Jonathan on that tribe who loves Lindsay, and so with those two being the options that you could send off to Exile, Jonathan's like, why would I send Lindsay away? I want to keep her here. And then Tori's like, why would I want Rocksroy here? I want to send him away so I can have time to turn people against him. The issue is that Jeff is heavily signaling that the person who goes to Exile, they're going to get something that can change the game. They're going to literally be able to change the game. The way the game is going, the safety that you have, they can change it. They can smash it like an hourglass and flip it, but then smash it and change it. All right, so it's not the same as it is. Are you sure you want to send Rock? And she's like, yep, let's send him. It sounds good to me.
Well, that's the thing though, because the decision is being posed as okay, so you can have safety, you can have immunity, or you can have a game-changing power. Which one do you want? And that's not the actual decision. The decision is, do you want to be not safe by choosing safety, or do you want to be safe by choosing not safety?
Right. No, that's a good point, because they have the opportunity as a tribe to say, no, we don't trust Rocksroy going either. I will be the sacrificial lamb. I will go and get the power for whatever it is. But once you go, you get the same opportunity that Rocksroy had. You can too save yourself. So at no point, unless you're, I don't know, really, really comfortable, do you just go and not be safe. When you come back, you're going to be safe. It's like, here's safety for the week. But I do have a question. Lindsay was right there. Lindsay could have easily been sent away and had the opportunity that Rocksroy had, and had the opportunity to put one of her closest allies, Jonathan, at risk. Do you think Lindsay makes that same decision? Because it's pretty cut and dry that Rocksroy should do it. Like, Tori's on the outs. She will now be vulnerable. I'll be safe. It's cool. But is Lindsay in a better spot? Like, is there any world where it's ever okay to not smash the hourglass, Taran?
I don't think so, because
I don't think so either.
if you're Lindsay and you're like, okay, if I break the hourglass, that means that Jonathan is in danger. You only think Jonathan's in danger if you think you won't have the numbers at the merge. And if you don't have the numbers at the merge, would you rather Jonathan be in danger or you be in danger? Like, it should never be like, obviously there's somebody out there exists, like Marcellus is out there somewhere, who would not break the hourglass, but like, it's not really a choice.
No, there's no. You're looking for a Lawan who's going to purposely get sent there to not break the hourglass. like there's a power there. I know it.
he's like, I purposely set myself here, and now Jeff is telling me I literally have superpowers. I can go back in time. but if I don't go back in time, maybe I
What if
get
I get voted
even
out?
better
Right.
superpowers.
Right. I get voted out. I go to the edge of extinction. I can hang out there, and then I can come back in at the final 7, and then just win a couple challenges, win an idol. Like that's the Lawan move. See, Lawan is mine. So powerful.
So Rox ends up heading out to the island here in Exile, and I swear to you, before he starts speaking, I'm like, this is like Rox's favorite thing. He's gonna love it out here. He doesn't have to deal with people. He doesn't have to herd cats anymore.
It was like herding cats.
He can get crack-a-lackin'.
Let's get crack-a-lackin'.
Like, this is gonna be great for him. And then the second I finish saying that, he says,
being out here by myself, no kids around, no wife that's bored and wants to nag me, I saw it as an opportunity.
he loves it.
Yeah, but sir, you haven't had any kids or a wife around you for 12 days.
Well, I think he's felt like he has kids around him.
Right. He's like, no kids, Swati's gone, no wife, Drea's gone. Like, sir, what are you talking about? But yeah, I know Mrs. Rocksroy is at home and they're watching the show together. He says, no wife to nag me, and she just like slaps him. It's just like, excuse me, sir, you're sleeping on the couch. Unless he won the money, I don't think she's gonna take that one kindly.
Yeah, it's funny. I feel like I saw something online recently that was like, millennials are just killing off the like constantly complain about your spouse jokes. And I guess Rox is a little too old for that. I guess he's not in that generation.
Right. Well, we know, like, listen, complaining about your spouse is probably something that people do, but you do it on national television, and then you like sit down and have watch parties and stuff. Could you imagine, like, you plan this big thing, and then everybody's like, yeah, my nagging ass wife ain't here, and then, and it doesn't go over well. Like nobody laughs. Everybody's like, ooh, like that's tough. It's like, yeah. But it's like I won the $1 million. I promise, I won Survivor. Like, did you? What was it worth it?
His wife is watching and she's going,
Jiminy Crickets.
I can't believe it.
Rocksroy has the funniest phrases. He's like,
I love
shnikes. Holy shnikes. Jiminy Crickets. Oh my gosh. Let's get crack-a-lackin'. Rocksroy, stop it. What are you doing?
Oh man, I felt very vindicated in this episode that I've been on the Rox train because I loved this whole segment here. Talking about, so I did not manage to clip what he said the condition was, but some sort of condition with his eyes where like he feels like he could go blind at some point or lose his vision at some point. And so he's really just trying to enjoy and take in as much as possible. And just seeing somebody like out there in his element, he even says like the social part of the game, very happy to be away from that. I'm just like he builds a shelter. Jeff is like, what? It was really cool to see this side of Rox.
Yeah, I think it was keratoconus that he has, and so he's like, in a few years I won't be able to see, and that explains those thick glasses that he wears. And so it's like, yeah, this is cool because he's really appreciating Survivor. In a way, this season and even 41. I feel like they try to get you invested in the characters by giving you the flashback about their life, right? But the Survivor that I remember is the interaction between the players is what got me invested in them, right? It's the Rudy and Richard. It's not what Rudy does at home and Richard does at home. It's the fact that these two people from different backgrounds can get together and make it work. Steven and JT come to mind as well. Sari and Aris. It's like, I don't need to know all their backstory to get invested in them. So this was kind of a moment of seeing him out on the island, kind of bonding with him, and it's not in a flashback. It was like, oh, okay, this is kind of classic Survivor to me. And yeah, like I don't know where Sia is. We don't talk about her much, but she should give Rocksroy some money. It would be nice. I don't think he's gonna win the game, but if you could just reach in your pocketbook and throw Rock some cash, I would like it because I'm a fan of Rocksroy. Yeah, holy shnikes, get this man some money.
So we get to the merge proper here, and I loved how they did this. I felt like we saw so many small conversations happen, so many little bonding moments. There was even like a montage at one point of just like random little snippets of conversation that were happening. I also liked that, like, when we were watching Jonathan and Mike bond, we were getting in the background other people talking, and it just felt like we were in it more, and it felt like they focused more on these individual relationships before building out to the strategic ones, which was so fun. We see like just how good Mike is, like, because I feel like this is the aspect of the game that we often miss. Like, this is what we needed to see with Erica's game last season, like the bonds that she was creating at this time, even though she wasn't part of any strategic alliances, she probably was making these social bonds. And we're seeing just how good Mike is at making those social bonds. Jonathan clearly is good at making those social bonds. And we saw we saw a few other people making these bonds. And then we get to like the shift in tone from like, okay, we're making social bonds, but now it's time to get into the strategy.
I need to establish agency.
Agency, says Hi. I loved it.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. There are some game body seasons of Survivor where like you hit the merge and everybody's like, okay, it's me, you, and you. It's me, you, and you. And then you go over there and it's me and you. And then that person has an idol. And we got some of that here, but you never really see like the personal thing that draws these people to work together. I think in the past, the show has been more cut and dry to where you don't need to know why they're meeting up at the merge and deciding to work together, because it's either like the tribes haven't swapped that much or it's very clear who's people been working with. But here you've had the Shipwheel Island twist, or where these people have come together in the summit and met each other. You have the Beware advantages where they've had to say these phrases one after another. You've had the amulet twist, so where they've had to talk to each other. So it's like there are reasons for a lot of these people in different machinations to work together. But now we see like it's not just going to be the item here and the idol here and the amulet there that's tying them together. It's the actual bond, the Mike and Jonathan of it all, the High and Romeo of it all, that's going to link these people together. Because they do talk about the advantages, but that's kind of second to the personal relationships.
Mm-hmm. And I also like so they definitely set up the ultimate sort of dilemma here in the episode, the war that happens between High and Omar. They set it up early, I think, in different ways. They have Omar say this:
I will jump up like a big shark from the ocean and eat some of these people up when the time is right.
Which I love. Felt very Tony, like bringing their guard down and then boom. And then we also heard this from High.
Moments like these are where good players fold and great players prevail.
And also, when he talked about having agency, he talked about making sure he was protecting his allies and setting himself up long term. And so, like, we're hearing from High, he's explaining like all of the ways in which he ultimately seems to fail in this episode. We're seeing from Omar all of the ways in which he is ultimately going to succeed. I don't know how that is going to play out moving forward from here. But again, just great storytelling in terms of just like how this plays out ultimately. So that was very fun to see.
And they've done that before in the season as well. I remember back in probably episode 1, you have Romeo who's saying like, Zach is with me. Zach is somebody who I know is a number. He's very skinny. I'm skinny. We both like, they weigh like 75 pounds between the two of them. They thought that was very cool. And then they end up going to tribal council and he ends up losing Zach. And so it's kind of like, do you look at that as, Romeo being malleable and able to pivot to a different plan, or losing a very important piece that would be valuable to his game? Now we know that he's able to move forward, to this point without Zach, and it wasn't like this huge blow to his game. But now that we're at the merge and you have somebody like Omar who's able to pull all of this off without a vote, and then you have somebody like High who seemed like they were in a good standing, who was good physically, but kind of loses grasp of things. It feels like more like this is going to be more impactful than the stuff earlier in the season.
Yes, and we are going to see that Chanelle is going to be outed pretty quickly. Chanelle continuing to make some choice decisions strategically, apparently does not let Omar know that he will not have a vote, continues to try to pretend like she did not cause him to lose his vote. I don't know what she's thinking here, considering the fact that obviously he's going to find out one way or another. Maybe this was orchestrated by High, who was like, "Hey, no, we don't want them to know," or something. But definitely gets caught out, and ultimately, this connection with Omar seems to be seems to deteriorate. And Chanelle here is on the outs.
Well, there's a moment where Omar says, I don't have a vote, to like a group of people, including Chanelle. And I was thinking, did I miss something? Did I miss the moment where he announced it to everyone else? Because
was Chanelle there when he said that?
Yeah, she was right there at the right before tribal council when he says, "I don't have a vote," and I'm thinking, so there's something clearly between the moment you're talking about where he's like,
Yeah.
Chanelle didn't tell anybody that, and this moment where he's just openly talking about not having a vote. It was public knowledge at that point that he didn't have a vote. And so I'm thinking like maybe Omar just came out and started telling people. Maybe eventually Omar told Chanelle, but regardless, Omar doesn't trust her, so it doesn't even matter anymore. Like, yeah, sure, he might be acting like it's fine, but the fact that the first thing you did when you got to Omar was to be like, "Hey, I'm sorry, I risked my vote and I lost it. My bad. Like, it's gonna be tough to work together here, but I got you." You know, that was enough to put doubt in Omar's head, and he's very capable as a player. We've seen, and so it might not look great for Chanelle long term.
Yes, and she's gonna catch the some groups talking a couple of times, and Lydia has to
I'm playing dumb.
play dumb to Chanelle, and the groups that are forming. Again, we saw that this is High setting himself up. We see it from his perspective, setting this group up. It's himself, Lydia, Mike, Jonathan, Lindsay, Omar, Drea, and Rocksroy, who is not there but is included in the group. Jonathan later going to be like, so Drea, she set you up. You're all good. You're in the alliance. Don't worry about it.
8-person alliance. He just walked into it. It's like, oh, I like it here. This is fun. You know, that's a decent spot to walk into, especially because it's not like he did nothing. You know, he did save a bunch of those people, so they are incentivized to work with him. He's safe. He's not going anywhere, so you might as well include him. But I don't know if he's now looked at as Drea's +1 to where, you know, like, oh, maybe we can't get Drea, but the next best thing is Rocksroy. So maybe he should be aware of that.
Rocksroy's like, can you guys just keep sending me? Because I really enjoy just being by myself, and it seems to be working out. I seem to be playing better alone than with other people.
Yeah, he went full Ozzy. You know, Ozzy's like, just send me to Redemption Island. It's fine. I'll win a few challenges. I'll catch some fish. It's cool, and I'll probably win the game. He was not wrong. He was very close. And so Rocksroy was like, yeah, just let me go off, build a shelter. Taran, there is no world where Jeff pulls up on the Hourglass Island and I'm sitting there in a shelter like, oh, Jeff, I've been waiting for you. How are you? I got my fire started. I've had some rice. Here's the Hourglass. Like, Jeff pulls up and I'm in like on a mess. Like, Jeff, I'm sorry. I didn't do it. Like, help, please. Like, do you want to smash the Hourglass? I don't care. I broke it a long time ago. I was trying. I ran out of ideas. I didn't know.
I was trying to eat it. I didn't.
Yeah,
I thought it was something else.
Jeff, please just take me back. So good for Rocksroy. Yeah, he'd much rather be on Hourglass Island than with any of these people.
Yeah, and Jeff seemed impressed by like, oh, wow, it's a shelter. But granted, if this had been Jonathan who created this shelter, but Jeff, wow, this is the first time I have ever seen anybody create a shelter on an island by themselves. This is incredible.
Jonathan,
play the theme.
Amazing move by Jonathan. Wow.
Yeah, it's like, not since Boston Rob have we had a construction like this. Oh my God, the layers, the depth. You know, Jonathan, I love you. I mean, you're great. You know, yeah. But again, if this is me, you're just gonna find me like buried in the sand, crying with the Hourglass, like clutching it like against me, like, please, Jeff, please. Yeah, I would love to see Jonathan in that situation though, where he has all the power, because we haven't really seen a lot of Jonathan's strategy throughout, and so I wonder, you know, if he's the type of person who, you know, could Lawan or Marcellus this one.
Yeah, I think it would be possible. I think that he's the kind of person that could be like, you know, I'm going to carry the burden here. And make myself vulnerable for the sake of my ally. I think that's something that I could see him doing.
Right. Especially because they're going to compete in a competition to see who's going to be immune. And as we know, he's impossible to beat. So you put him in that situation where it's like him versus Lindsay versus, you know, whoever, like Tori and all this other stuff. Yeah, Jonathan's like, cool, piece of cake. Except I'm not saying he can't spell immunity, but I wouldn't be as confident, you know, like, you know, we've seen people mess up before. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Well, so one interesting thing about this episode is the fact that they were given some kind of warning that there was a power actually led them to what seems to be the correct conclusion. Drea says right out, like, maybe the power is that they swap the results of that competition. And that is not just a throwaway line, because it seems like later in the episode when they're coming up with the strategy of, okay, Chanelle is the target, but if things switch, then Tori's the target. So like they're strategizing around the possibility of things changing up, which only further adds to this is not a decision smashing this hour. Like they've already strategized for it. Like if Rocksroy comes out and he's like, so obviously I decided I couldn't smash, I couldn't do that to you guys, they'd be like, oh, well, we had a plan for. Oh, I'm okay. That's fine.
I guess we'll vote Chanelle here. What are we doing? Like it's like a Tori. Yeah, like who is it again? Yeah, it was spot on. And I'm not saying there's some shenanigans afoot, but I think maybe Jeff and the producers are probably leaning heavily into this could change the game. Like this is some different. Like we tried this last season, and the person who had benefited was magically immune. I'm just saying, like you might want to do this, and maybe you would be immune if just because it was so spot on, and they knew to just go to it. We've seen people bring up Twist in the past, and people go, "No, that's dumb. They're not doing that. That's stupid." But this time, everybody was like, "Yeah, that sounds about right." Like judging by Jeff's body language and the hourglass, we just saw him throw in the boat with Rocksroy. I think you're right. I think we're about to turn back time, change the results, make him safe, and then possibly make us unsafe. So good on them to figure that out.
All right, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So the hourglass is smashed. The results are reversed. And that just means that all that's left is...
And then there's a Tori factor.
The Tori factor. Because Tori becomes the default target, except Tori spells immunity correctly and has some steady hands. And just like that, Tori is immune, and things get a lot more interesting in terms of where this vote is going to go.
Yeah, Tori is a villainess this season, and I'm not saying oh people hate Tori, but I think for Survivor purposes, I like that there's somebody who you can root against sometimes based on their actions in the game. And so with Tori, the people on her tribe don't necessarily love her. They're not dying to work with her. She's kind of squirrely as far as trying to play people against each other, and she's not very trustworthy in a way that we've seen other Survivor players. But this episode did a really good job of if you wanted Tori to go home, you were licking your chops waiting on it. You're sitting there sharpening your knife yes, finally, because there's the moment where Rocksroy comes back from breaking the hourglass and Tori is incredulous. Rocksroy, how dare you go over there and put us in danger? What is wrong with you, you menace? And he's like, y'all sent me there. We sent you there to get a power. He's like, I took the power. That's the whole point. She's like, but not at my expense. Jesus, what's wrong with you? You monster.
7 people have planned for this eventuality, and she's like, wait, what? Then you can't do that.
Right. We sent you there for a power. Why would you take the power? That doesn't make any sense. Why would you do that? Rocksroy. Yeah, what you don't care about us? We are your original tribe. No, Tori, no, I don't care.
Jeff, do you see what's happening right now? Jeff, can you please please help here?
Yeah, Jeff's I dealt with Danny last season. I'm not doing this again. I'm listen, Tori, I'm sorry, you're screwed. But to her credit, she does end up winning the competition here, and it throws a wrinkle in the plan because the two people that were very obviously on the bottom, Chanelle and Tori, are now safe, and now we have a live game. We don't have enough information about the tribes and where they stood to know who's the next obvious choice, and so it really made the last quarter of the episode very exciting.
It did, because there are now 5 people vulnerable: Jonathan, Lindsay, Marianne, Hai, and Lydia. And 4 of those 5 are in this group, this 8-person majority group, which means the only person not in the group left to target is Marianne, who has an immunity idol that most people know about. And so things get very tricky, because obviously you could easily just pour votes onto Marianne, but if Marianne plays the idol, one of you could go. And so you have to start thinking about okay, well, who's the backup? And if you're thinking about who's the backup, then maybe you don't even want to risk putting your small amount of votes on the backup, because the other faction might be able to put more votes on their backup. And now you might need to take a full shot. And this is when the sort of the plot of the strategy gets a little bit messy in terms of like what exactly was the strategy. My assumption here is that this majority decided that they were going to put the votes on Marianne. And they were going to let the outsiders, the power hungry outsiders, put the votes on alpha male Jonathan.
Yeah.
What was
that was Romeo's impression of Jonathan.
Yeah.
the sound of an alpha male? You know.
I'm getting a quite the collection of these.
Yes. No. Yeah. Pretty soon you're gonna be like make a soundtrack for this season, which is these random noises. Like weird mouth noises is what I like to call them. Yeah, but this is where the strategies goes kind of haywire here with the Tori thing and the Chanelle thing, because they had two contingencies and now everybody's like, wait, we need a third one. And it was like, okay, well, my third contingency is not your third contingency, and the people that were in my contingency are over there and they're safe. And so now what are we gonna do? And so it looked like Romeo tried to get the votes on Jonathan because Romeo is anti-big person, and Jonathan's clearly like somebody like, can we all just agree that Jonathan should go here? Like, he's gonna win all the challenges. But then Lindsay's like, yeah, of course. And then she goes like, we cannot all agree on that. Actually, let's go and put the vote on Marianne, because not only does Marianne have an idol, Marianne has an extra vote too. But Omar's like, wait, Marianne has an extra vote too. And I like Marianne, and she has an idol. That would be tough to pull off. And I don't have a vote. So Marianne's extra vote could basically be my vote if I need it to be. So let's not do that. Maybe let's go for Lydia. And then High finds out like, I will not stand for that. Like, Micah will take a bullet for Lydia. He will not. And I will never vote for her. He will. And so that it gets very complicated there. And it becomes basically like between either Marianne or Jonathan, with like a Lydia third possibility floating around in the air.
Yeah, so my guess is that this majority decided that they were going to put votes on Marianne with kind of like the thing that, knowing that again the outsiders are putting their votes on Jonathan. So if Marianne plays the idol, sorry Jonathan. And so that's where Jonathan is going to Omar like, I need help here, because what if Marianne plays that idol? Like, I could be in some trouble. And Omar is not only saving Jonathan, but also clearly like fully saving, because he's not doing a backup on Lydia. He's also saving Marianne here. And that's where like I feel like the story was like, oh, he's saving Jonathan, but it felt more to me like he was saving Marianne. And he uses the fact that Lydia is a little bit hesitant about like where they should go to put the target on Lydia. Just he's a shark.
I will jump up like a big shark from the ocean and eat some of these people up when the time is right.
And he ate Lydia up.
It's not a bad, like, this is amazing gameplay for Omar, for me, as far as I'm concerned, because I think, like, yes, Jonathan is this big, huge target, but he's always going to be a big, huge target. He's basically going to have to win out, or other things are going to happen to save him. Like, they're going to have to be like really good game moves made to kind of pick off some of these like outlying players before you get to Jonathan. We see that happen time and time again in Survivor, when it's like, if they let the clear merge boot person who's going to win a bunch of challenges slide through, it's because there are other fish that they find more threatening, to fry at that point. And so Omar saying, let's keep Jonathan around. It allows him to still be that shark, right? Because he can go back underwater and now be like, oh man, that was crazy. Like, that's wild. I can't believe Lydia went home. Like, yeah, Jonathan, Omar, did you have something to do with that? He's like, I mean, I did. But look at Jonathan. He's right there. He's huge. Like Andrea's there too, and she's huge. And isn't High going to be mad that Lydia's going? Like, I'm just saying. I mean, I'm a shark, but am I the biggest shark in the water? I don't think so. And he probably is. And so I thought that was a very astute thing to do with saving Jonathan, but also potentially using Marianne moving forward, because they've been on the tribe since day one, right? And so they probably have a really strong bond. And why throw away a couple people that you have bonded with to work with Lydia, who you don't know, and who High has told you basically like, I have gone to rocks from them, they are my number one. So you get rid of Lydia, maybe High needs another number one. You don't know. So I thought it was a great move.
Yeah. I have a sound clip I think that like really does a great job explaining sort of the strategy of the situation.
Shut the front door.
Yeah, bro.
Oh, baby.
Oh my god.
Oh, hold, I'm sorry. Oh, that's really embarrassing. I just don't. That was something unrelated.
Oh
Just
my God.
sorry. It says another.
Shut
Oh no,
the
not
front
not this
door.
one. Yeah. It's,
Oh,
oh,
no.
sorry. This is
Oh my
no.
God.
This is I don't know why this one keeps playing. It's
Yeah,
I was
play the
looking
play
at
the
something
snow
earlier.
job one again. Please play
Um,
the snow job. Like this is too much. This is too much. Oh gosh, what was Taran what was that clam doing? You know what I'm saying? Like what is happening here? I said this is a family show.
I don't know what the clan was doing, but Daddy likes.
You know
Apparently.
who Daddy? Who was Daddy? No, you know.
This is I feel like we might also enjoy
Smaller, but it will get the job done for sure.
Amen.
Mr. Jeff.
Amen.
Amen, Mr. Jeff.
Hey,
Daddy
amen,
likes.
Mr. Jeff. Daddy likes. Yeah. Hey, look, it's not about the size of the boat, Taran. It's about the motion and notion. That's all that matters. You know.
Anyway, sorry about that. Sorry, I had something playing on the other tab. So about the strategy of the situation, I love this. I love this from Omar. I mean, not only saves an ally in both Jonathan and Marianne, but also takes a big shot at High, who is probably his biggest competition right now in terms of strategic threat. That's sort of how it's being positioned to us. And he's even going to go too high to pitch the strategy of taking out Lydia after High said, like, I went to rocks for this girl. There's no way I'm getting gonna turn on her. Omar went for it anyway, and I was like, man.
I don't know if that's balls or stupidity.
Turns out that was bowls.
Balls of stupidity. And High ends up voting out Lydia. So that's the thing. Even though it's clearly, Omar is saving his allies, taking out one of High's allies, but he got High on board with it. So, like I said, if High's going to need a number one, why wouldn't it be Omar? He's gone with the flow. Like I did not look happy in that confessional where he's voting her out, but at the same time, he was willing to work with Omar in this moment, and so that could be good moving forward. But I think High is astute enough to know that you can't let Omar keep getting his way, because eventually, like when it comes down to it, you don't want to be sitting next to somebody who can do something like this and like manage to make their way to the end. I just don't think that would be wise from somebody who seems like they're as savvy as High.
Yeah, and I mean this is a big shot, and it lands big. I mean, High is probably crippled by this move. I mean, losing Lydia is terrible for High, and the fact that he wasn't able to save Lydia, I think, speaks volumes for like how well this position is, how good this position is for him, and definitely will be factoring in to my ratings, at least as we close into to the ratings. But I did have one more thing to bring up, which was this charming moment between Marianne and Drea.
And you agree with me?
No,
Exactly.
Yeah.
We're on the same page, I think.
not really. Agree to disagree.
So, no, stop it. But you're with me on this. No,
What
you
happened?
understand? You understand where I'm coming from? Not at all. Please stop talking to me. But I thought we were going to discuss. We're not.
It's like I don't understand, like, because they sort of played this off like this was Marianne's fault, but like,
Drea, what are you doing?
Why is Drea like so adamant about not being on the same page as Marianne?
Right. We are not working together. I am safe.
And like the original statement too was not anything weird. It was just like, this is where you find who you want to. It was like one of those very generic tribal statements. And Drea was like, nah, you don't know who you're going to work with. Anything could change.
No.
They could turn on you next time.
Right.
But you're trying to figure out who might not turn on you. Like, is it might turn? No. I feel like we're ultimately saying the same thing. No, we're not. We are not the same.
You could never. You could literally never, Marianne. Stop it. But do you think this is maybe I don't know what Drea is doing here. Like, are you like, do you try to isolate yourself from Marianne because of the beware advantage, right? Like, because they came together. One of the strategic things that we didn't really talk about is that the three people with the beware advantages came together and said, we're going to work together. This will be what is it? An extra vote if they all work together? Is that was
Well, that's the amulet. That's that's High, Lindsay, and Drea. Then also the beware advantage is the idol, and that's Mike, Marianne, and Drea again.
Right. So they know that these idols exist. Like they've said the phrases. So they know that Drea has one. They know Marianne has one. Maybe Marianne's just like, I'm separating myself from you because I'm immune. Number one, Drea is, and you also have an idol, and I don't want people looking at me as like somebody else that they could lump in with you. But Marianne is literally just trying to make conversation. She's just like, so like you like in the game of Survivor, this is what you do, right? No. Okay, well, I guess I was wrong about the Game of Survivor. Yeah.
It could be like a weird way of her trying to play into the blind side, like pretending like she's going to be voting Marianne out when in fact she's voting Lydia. But it definitely came off. It's very strange. Ultimately, what we see here is that Lydia is the one to be voted out. Even High votes for Lydia. So High votes Lydia. Jonathan, Lindsay, Mike, Drea, Marianne all vote Lydia. Romeo votes Marianne. Tori and Chanelle vote Jonathan. Lydia votes Marianne. And Rocksroy votes Lindsay. With
what was that about? And what is it spelling? What is it spelling? Like what? He made that up. There's no way he thought her name was spelled like that.
Yeah, like, Lindsay.
Lynze. Listen, if you're Lindsay and you're listening to this and your name is spelled like that, fine. But this was just like, of all the ways to spell Lindsay, he went the furthest out of his way.
Yeah, it's like normally when you're thinking like, okay, how do they spell Lindsay? Is it with an E or an A? And he went, it's with a Z. Yeah,
basically. Like, is there an I? No, it's a Y and a Z. And it's gonna end with an E. Like, so no Y, no, not at all, not at the end. It's like, oh, okay, no A, no. Just like, it was just a weird spelling. What is happening? But the votes, Taran, they feel like they're everywhere. Like, why is there a Lindsay vote? Is Rocksroy out the loop like that?
Right. So I'm assuming that again, like my assumption, which could be very wrong, is that Tori and Chanelle, they're led to believe that Jonathan's the vote, right? And that's the original plan, to have Jonathan as, if they want to vote Jonathan, they came up with it themselves. We didn't put Jonathan as the backup, but he is the backup. So they're still voting Jonathan. And the original plan was probably split the votes, Marianne. Like everyone here votes Marianne, and then a couple votes Jonathan. And that's probably what Romeo is in on. So he probably still feels like the vote is Marianne. He probably hasn't been told about the Lydia plan at that point. And then Rocksroy, I don't know. He's really challenging his own label here.
I'm predictable.
Yeah. Like when was Lindsay ever like talked about? I mean, there was like a brief moment where Lindsay came up, but it was very much like Jonathan or Marianne.
I do have one theory. Lindsay, Lydia.
Yeah.
Sounds kind of similar.
Right. Rocksroy is like, Lynzia? Is it Lynzia? What is your name? Lynze? Lynzia?
Is it possible that Rocksroy, when he got up to the voting booth, was like, crap, what was her name? It wasn't Lindsay, was it? No, it wasn't Lindsay. It was something weird. It was something. It was like Lindsay, but not Lindsay. Right. Maybe it was like a weird version of Lindsay.
Right. He's like, I don't know which one it was. So I'm just gonna pick something in the middle. It's like,
I mean, he wasn't there for 2 days. He's just learned their names.
Right. Jeff reads about Lydia. I'm just gonna hold this one up. I don't think it matters right now. It doesn't matter.
The second Rock sees the first Lydia vote, he's like, "Oh crap!"
Like,
I knew it was like something like Lindsay, but not exactly.
He just looks over to Lindsay and says, "Oh dear God, I'm sorry." Like, I swear to God, like I didn't mean to. I promise.
Lindsay, yeah, Lindsay. They get back from tribal. Lindsay's like, "All right. Who voted for me?" And Rocksroy's like, "Yeah, I did. I swear to you, I didn't mean it." And Lindsay's like,
"Expected, no. Surprised, no."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, he's like, where I come from, this is how we spell Lydia. You know, Jeff, it's not my fault, Jeff, because not familiar with the, the original spelling, like the Latin spelling of Lydia. But we move. It's fine. It's fine. We're still working together, Lydia. Lindsay. Lindsay. Yeah, we're fine.
Yes, Lindsay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I don't know how you make sense of what is going, like these alliances are anymore. All I know is that it looks like Omar is the front runner, at least at this point. But we've seen in the past that doesn't even matter all the time. Like you get a front runner this week, and then the very next week people go, yeah, why don't we just get out that person? And then the chips fall where they are, and you end up going home. So we could see some exciting stuff in the next few episodes.
All right. Well, let's rate some of these players. Let's get into it. Definitely some big changes across the board here at the merge. But let's talk through some of what we're seeing. We can let's start from let's just run through them. Let's start from the bottom. We'll start from the bottom. We'll work our way up. I feel like there's easy choices on both ends, so there wasn't like an easy choice. Should we start from the bottom or top? But let's start from the bottom because I feel like there are a couple of choices here for the bottom. Obviously, Lindsay is the one that gets voted out here. So she's a contender for the bottom spot this week. But you also have Chanelle again, seemingly at the bottom, seemingly only saved because of the Hourglass twist. Otherwise would have been her. And you also have Tori, who also seemingly would have been out if not for the immunity win that she got. So I think you have to consider all of them. Now, Erica also famously seemed to be the target prior to the Hourglass twist. So I don't know if that says good things for Chanelle. But I do think that, if I'm going to have to pick, I think I have to pick Chanelle for the bottom spot here. I still love Chanelle. I want to keep seeing Chanelle in the game. I love how messy she is. I love how strategic she is. She's a great combination of strategic and messy. And I love it. But this, I think, it was not a great episode. She lost the Omar connection. Her own tribe turned on her. She was a target. She got saved by the Hourglass. Tori at least saved herself with the immunity. So I think she gets some bonus points for that. Whereas Chanelle, it seemed to be all not great. And then she starts the episode with the argument with Mike. It was just like, oh boy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Chanelle's thing throughout the episode was that nobody would work for her. I know you like the season Winners at War, Taran, but you know how throughout that season, Kim Spradlin's like begging somebody, like, just talk game to me, to the point where she just falls on the ground, like, just please, like, I'm a normal person, I swear. I am the greatest who ever did this, but like, I just want to play the game. But like that happens every time Chanelle walks up. She's like, hey, what are you guys talking about? Oh, nothing. We're just taking small talk about that Hourglass thing is crazy, right? We're about to go spearfishing. Bye. She's like, just standing there, like, oh, okay. And then she goes to somebody like, wasn't that weird how they just kind of walked away? And they're like, no, that's not weird at all. Bye. And so she can get nothing going. So yeah, I think pretty obviously in this episode, it was like Chanelle is doomed unless an act of Hourglass happens. But you brought up Erica still winning the season after being that person who was going to go in that spot. And I think if anything, the Hourglass twist just throws so much chaos into the tribal council when you only have half the people to vote for. The people that you obviously wanted and strategized to get out are not even options. And now people are wheeling and dealing and getting kind of messy before tribal council. So I can see a world where, yeah, going into this, Tori and Chanelle were very obviously the ones who were going down, but now Omar has made a big move. Marianne has just survived, and everybody's talking about her idol and her extra vote. You got Jonathan, who is still huge, who is still, a big challenge threat. You got certain people who are on the wrong side of a vote. Lindsay got a vote, and we don't know why. So, maybe Rocksroy has now put a target on their head. Romeo has been playing and bonding with Tori. So I'm thinking that even though Chanelle is seemingly in a really, really bad spot. This was not a great episode for them. I think that I'm a fan of Chanelle. You're a fan of Chanelle. And because of all the crazy stuff that happened, she might be able to pull herself out of this one.
Yeah, I do think that ultimately the result of this vote, Tori winning that immunity, it benefited Tori. It also benefited Chanelle. It benefited anybody who was on the outs, including Marianne, obviously, in some ways. Like I think that this was the fact that Marianne survives this vote, it was actually better for Marianne that Tori won than if she had been safer with a Tori boot here, because it takes out one of the numbers in that 8, the majority, and it also clearly defines some cracks in that majority that will allow for the people outside of it to slither their way through if they can. So I actually feel like, it was not a great episode for Chanelle. I feel like obviously the better sort of path here was that she gets in with Omar and develops a good relationship, gets in with the merge, a majority, and is in a much better spot. But ultimately, the final outcome of the episode is sort of on a positive uptick for her. So I'm at like a 3 for Chanelle. Some not great decisions made. Damage control didn't seem to be very effective with Mike. Not telling Omar about the vote immediately, seemed to lose some trust there. Had to get saved by the Hourglass, but not out of the game yet. And I do think that this Lydia vote gives her some new life in the game, especially since like the main people who were against her, their main person who was against her seemed to be High. That was like really you can't trust her, and now has lost a lot of his power base. And so hopefully that means that there are some people that she can be like, hey, I'm not that bad, and you need me as a number now. So we'll see.
Yeah, I think the thing with Chanelle is that she's so very obviously a gamer that if she gets to the end, and you're like, she wheeled and dealed and made her way here, and it's like, yeah, like she clearly fought her way to the end, and you have to respect it. And so, yeah, there's a lot of upsides to Chanelle. We just haven't gotten it yet, and I don't know if that's even going to be, a product of Chanelle's game, or if it's just going to be happenstance due to all the chaos. But regardless, I'm with you. I would probably give her a 3. I thought about a 4 for a minute, but I was like, no, if she's going to be the low mark for me, then I definitely want to start with her and then use her as a reference point for everybody else. And so 3 is probably where I would go with as well.
Mm-hmm. So I would then put Tori just above Chanelle, but at the same rating for me. I would also give Tori a 3. She did win the immunity, and that's great for Tori, but not likely going to win every immunity. And I do think that she also played some things poorly here. Again, trying to ream rocks out for the Hourglass decision is just like, we just continue to see these like social blunders from her. She is the easy boot here if she doesn't win that immunity, but similar to Chanelle, I think good thing that that she did, and that ultimately this big group had to take a shot at one of their own. So, there is like, so the interesting thing about Tori and Chanelle is that they're both like heavy gamers, right? And they've both gotten in trouble for it. But Chanelle is like seemingly very good socially. The only thing is that like she's really messed up strategically, and now she has that like on her back. Like it's hard for her to shake that reputation because people are telling the story about what she did. Whereas Tori seems to be not great socially, and constantly like messes up and gets people to like not like her very much. But I do think she's making fewer strategic errors in that way. And so like they're kind of like bouncing around in this area of like on the outs. It would be funny if they started working together. Because I think that weirdly like they could work together pretty well. And they probably need to.
Yeah, I mean, do that. What is it? Allison and June thing from Big Brother,
Yeah.
right? Like, where like very clearly we hate these people, like we don't want to work with them in the game, but because of that, people start looking at them as goats, or maybe like they're not the biggest threat because it's so obvious that we can get them one day. So it's like if they pair up, and just start moving around to save each other every week, then you get out some of the bigger people, and then you look up and you're sitting there with one of them who you probably think is a goat, and the other one who is socially like attached to you that you're like, oh, well, I need them now. So it would be fun to see them work together. But I agree, they're probably like, they're both in last place. Like Chanelle's probably definitively the worst, but not by much. So whatever ranking I give Chanelle, I'm giving to Tori as well. Again, the chaos of the game could allow them to slip under the radar a little bit. Winning that challenge was good for her because it saved her. But again, winning challenges can raise your profile and make you more of a threat. So they're both getting 3s for me, but at the bottom is Chanelle just by a little bit.
Yes. So I think then I have to go with Lydia, the person that was voted out here. Now, I don't think that, like, it's not like Lydia did that much wrong. She really gets screwed a couple of times by the Hourglass, by the fact that, like, then Tori wins. Like, it takes some specific scenarios to put her in the position to be voted out here. But at the same time, we can sort of like point to the reason she leaves is that she messes up with Omar. Trying to be wavering on the group, because again, if my theory is correct and the whole purpose was that they were still going to vote Marianne, then that means that Lydia talking to Omar makes sense, that he was like, oh, this is a red flag, and was able to use that with the rest. Because, like, sorry to be disjointed here, but like, Omar's argument to take out Lydia is she's wavered on the 8. She's saying that she would maybe target Jonathan, which wouldn't be a red flag if they were considering targeting Jonathan as an 8, right? So that to me points to the fact that they were always going to do Marianne, and that it was just that there were going to be a couple of extra Jonathan votes from the other people. So the fact that she was actually considering voting for Jonathan, and says so to Omar, it is a big mistake, especially with Omar being the person she says it to, as somebody who's tight with Jonathan and who's was on a tribe with Jonathan, and he's able to use that to take her out. I do think that's a pretty big error. I think it's ultimately what leads to her being voted out. It's not the kind of error that I think would usually lead to you being voted out, if not for all of these other situations happening. It's kind of like a forced error rather than an unforced error, if you look at it that way. But it's still a pretty decent error, and I think the fact that she was also voted out, I'm going to also give Lydia the 3 here. It may be a little too harsh, but just the fact that we got a clear answer for what, like, she did wrong. We usually don't see something like that, so I'm gonna grade accordingly.
See, and I'm going to have to disagree with you a bit, because although, like, Lydia, we didn't see a lot of Lydia. That's one thing that I'll point out. In this episode, for this to be her boot episode, we didn't get a lot of Lydia. One of the things we did see was when people were asking Lydia questions and she's playing dumb, it was very transparent. People were like, Lydia's not telling me everything. Like, Chanelle was able to see through it. And so it's not like Lydia is a flawless player by any means. But I do think, like you said, it took a specific amount of wizardry to get her into that spot. I also don't know if Lydia is sincerely pushing a Jonathan boot, or if Omar just has enough and he's good enough to where he's able to convince people that she is, right? Because the only reason I would think it's sincere is because High voted her out too. But maybe High just doesn't have the social capital that Omar does, to where it's like, yeah, Lydia said this thing. That's enough to get everybody else on board. But the fact that Omar is able to go get High on board with this too makes it feel like maybe this is an error in High's judgment as a player, or in High's ability as a player, less than it is, or more than it is of Lydia's. Because Lydia clearly wasn't in the same position as High. Like, she was looked at as like almost like High's number 2. And so she's easier to pick off in that moment. I don't think she has the influence over the tribe that he would have. So I think that this is more of a kudos to Omar than it is to Lydia. So I would probably give her a 4, just because, like, had not been for the Hourglass, she was not going home. It just wasn't going to happen. Or at least we weren't presented that. Had not been for Marianne's idol, she probably wasn't going home. There were other factors at play here, and it's not like she went and did something that was just nail in the coffin. We really have to speculate, how much agency she had in that, pushing Jonathan as a actual potential vote. And, or just like weighing that versus Omar's ability to say, oh, no, Lydia is really dangerous, we got to get rid of her. And so that's why I would go with 4.
I think that's very fair. For me, next, I would probably have Romeo. And the reason for that is that unexplained to us, he seems to be excluded from this majority. I don't know why. In fact, I thought that when I saw him and Omar and High talking, I was like, oh, look at the 3 of them. Like, they were kind of the 3 people that were positioned as sort of like the potentially top dogs of their tribes, all getting together. And then I thought he was in the majority for like a moment there. And before I realized, like, wait a minute, 8 people, Rox is in. is Romeo not a part of this? And he wasn't, and that's not good. He also didn't seem to be in on the vote here. He talks about being power hungry, which I felt like was kind of a turn in the edit for him as well. So I'm not sure what they're trying to say about about Romeo's game here, but it doesn't seem to be good, and his position doesn't seem to be great. I think, again, though, he also benefits from this Lydia vote at the end of the day. Still, though, I have to give him a 4. I feel like this is a fall from grace for Romeo. He's going to have to work his way back into power if he wants it. And the fact that he thought he was in power when he wasn't, it's not a great sign.
Yeah, I probably agree with you on that one. Man, it feels weird giving Romeo a 4 when they were really in no danger of going home this weekend, and I gave Lydia a 4 and she did go home. But I think you're right. Like, I think the fall from grace is ridiculous. Yeah, his number one ally, Drea, is not saying anything good about him, even though we've never seen them have a falling out. Like, she's just not including him. He's going to people like Marianne and saying, "Oh, I want to get the smaller people together," which is isolating, the Jonathans of the world, the high who considers themselves a physical player. And so maybe Romeo trying to scoop up the smaller players, maybe that includes like a Lydia. Maybe that's when High says, "Oh, we can't let these little people, get in and, too much momentum because they're going to start coming after us physical threats." For whatever reason, Romeo's left out of all of that, and I don't really see a lot of allies for Romeo right now. Now, of course, this half the tribe was immune this time, so it's very difficult to tell, who people would have voted for had everybody been on the board. But this was just not a good episode for them. I think Romeo is very capable, based off of what we've seen. He does a really good job of latching on to people with power and just kind of trying to steer them. He did that with Drea. We saw him trying to make those moves here, but I think I think Romeo might be on a sinking ship. He might not be anybody's first choice for who to go next. Maybe it's Tori, maybe it's Chanelle, maybe it's even a bigger threat, but it's not anybody's number one. I don't see anybody who's going to go to rocks for Romeo or, anything like that. Anybody who does trust them, the most. And so I probably give them a 4 too. It does feel weird, but I'll probably go with a 4.
All right. Well, next up for me, I would probably have the only other person not in the majority, and that is going to be Marianne. And I do think that ultimately this was kind of a net neutral episode for Marianne. I think, not being included in the majority, not good. Being the target, not good. Being saved by Omar, very good. Not having to use the idol or the extra vote, also very good. Omar now having a lot of power and influence and sway potentially in this this whole sort of Taku tribe, having a lot of influence and sway in the majority to potentially further keep her safe, also very good. So for me, I'm still just kind of I'm not entirely sure where her game goes from here. Does Omar do Omar and Jonathan and Lindsay continue to protect her from the majority? Do they try to bring her in? Or is she just going to continue to be an easy target who's on the outs that they want to flush her idol if they can? Where is she going to go from here? For me, including the fact that she's not in the majority, which I think is big, especially in Survivor, it's ultimately going to land at that sort of neutral position of a 5. But I'm curious to know what you think.
I'm going to echo you on 5. But I was tempted to go a little bit higher, but it wasn't because of any of Marianne's actions. It was just that this episode was Marianne heavy. And so we got a lot more strategic content from Marianne than we've gotten in the past. We even had Tori saying, "Oh, there's a lot more to you than a bubbly personality," which is good. It's good that she has those chops. We see it. But as far as positioning in the game right now, yeah, she has an extra vote that people know about. She has an idol that people know about. She was saved here, but there wasn't many options on the board, and so Omar just had to kind of take a stand. When Jonathan's throwing out who his decoy boots are, Marianne's always the one he leans toward, of his tribe. So it's kind of how Chanelle and Tori are at the bottom of Ika and the Green tribe. Marianne, in a way, is on that end of the Orange tribe. They got to throw somebody's name out. Omar just went to bat big time for Jonathan. Lindsay going to bat for Jonathan. I don't see anybody really going to bat like that for Marianne. And so a 5 makes me feel good because I like Marianne. I'm rooting for them to do well. I drafted Marianne, as you remember. But yeah, I don't think I saw enough to say that they're in a better spot than they were in. And in fact, if the chips fall the wrong way, I can see them being a casualty to some of the twists and turns in the game.
All right. Well, my big shot here, my big rating here, I think that might be one of the more controversial. Who knows? Maybe it's not. But I have one more 5 to give, and it is going to be from somebody in that majority, and it's going to be somebody I really didn't expect to give a 5 to, nor do I want to. But even though I thought like 90% of this episode was fantastic for High, the last little bit of it here was pretty devastating for his game, in my opinion. And I'm going to give him a 5 overall. Now, I think that he, as a player, overall, I think he's okay. I think he will survive this. I think he's a very capable player and he'll bounce back. But being reactive to the events of this episode, I'm going to rate him a little lower than I otherwise would, because losing Lydia is terrible for his game. And again, sort of like the fact that he wasn't able to counter it means that he doesn't have enough sway in this large group of people to get what he wants. And that's bad. It means he's not very well positioned right now, and he's going to have to do some work to get positioned. He clearly, because when I was thinking about okay, he found out that Lydia is the target. How can he combat this? The way forward was probably to take in, use those votes from say Romeo was still voting Jonathan, Tori, and Chanelle. Those are already 3 votes. He's got himself and Lydia. That's 5. All he needs is 2 people from that majority. 2 other people, Drea and Rocksroy. If he can get them, then Jonathan's out instead of Lydia. But he wasn't able to. He wasn't able to pull them. That means they are more aligned with the Taku people than with him. And now he is rudderless in that group. He is alone. I mean, he's got Mike, but Mike is deeply with Jonathan now and all of that. I don't know if Mike is a solid enough ally for High. So he's got his work cut out for him. I think he's a very capable player. I can't wait to see what he does here. But for now, I'm going to start him at this 5, and I hope he climbs from there.
Yeah. Ooh, 5, it feels weird again, giving higher 5. I think I would feel better giving him a 6. And here's why. I think losing his number 1 ally in Lydia is a bad thing. Yes. But I think it was the most public number 1 ally in the history of Survivor, and listen, as if it was a blood water twist, right? They go into the merge or the fake merge, and I went to rocks for them. Lydia is a non-negotiable for me. Mike's I'll take a bullet for Lydia, and High. It's very clear that this is the quote unquote tightest 3. And so I don't think it completely tanks High's game to lose somebody who he's so obviously tied to, because then it frees him up to work with other people. What I would like to see is maybe a confessional or something where he says I could vote out Lydia here, and then maybe the heat will be off me a little bit. We've seen in Blood Water seasons where having your number 1 ally, your spouse or whatever, it helps. It helps you go far into the game, like John and Jacqueline in San Juan del Sur or something like that. But I mean, we also see where your number 1 ally goes and you slip right under the radar. Nobody's worried about you anymore because there are bigger threats. There are bigger alliances that we have to we have to take out. And you are not really one of those things. And even maybe last season with Chantel and what's his name? He almost won. Can't think of his name.
Ricard?
Yes, Ricard. Yeah, Ricard and Shan. You lose Shan, and he's yeah, I'm getting Shan out right here. And then her alliance starts to crumble, but then he's kind of able to maybe win a couple challenges, slide on the radar a couple times, but I think that if that was by design, I would feel a lot more comfortable giving High credit for it. Mm-hmm. But we didn't get that content. But because of High and being able to identify their positioning in the game a lot, it doesn't have, like you said, he doesn't have a lot of strong allies right now. But I don't think it's as bad as like a Romeo. So I would go with 6. I would feel good with 6.
All right, there you go. So for my next 2. I would go Drea and Rocks, and I would give them both 6s as part of the majority. I do feel like they both seem to do well. Rox makes the obvious choice to smash the hourglass, so he passes the you're not a terrible player test. So good there. He lands himself in the majority. That's great. Drea in the majority as well. Drea holding on to an idol and an extra vote. And does she have the extra vote from the ship wheel? I don't remember now. Yes, she has the extra vote, and then she also has the amulet. So she is the most stacked player advantage wise. But the reason I'm not going to go to a 7 on Drea in particular is that I didn't love the decision to not include Romeo. I don't know why she makes the decision. For all I know, it's a good decision. Maybe there was reason to not trust Romeo, but by not including Romeo, she's putting herself in a weaker position within this majority. That she is now, she's got Rocksroy, but she doesn't have a third person like the Taku tribe has 3 people, and now still Marianne, a 4th person, which means that her power base is still limited. She doesn't have that backup that she would otherwise have. I don't know what the decision was to not include Romeo. Again, I don't know the reason why, but if I'm just looking at it if I'm saying if she had the choice and she chose to not include Romeo, I don't like that choice unless there was a good reason for it that I don't know. And just the fact that she's one of 2 people instead of one of 3 people in this majority, I also don't like that. Rocksroy doesn't get punished for that decision because he wasn't part of that decision, but he doesn't have a bunch of advantages like she does. So they're going to both be at 6s for me.
I'm going to be harder on Rocksroy here because I think Rocksroy is in this spot due to none of his own doing. And I honestly think if you had left Rocksroy to his own devices, he would not be in that spot. We haven't seen a lot of we know that socially Rocksroy had struggles in the pre-merge. And so, here I'm like, would Rocksroy have been able to navigate this if Drea was away? Would Drea have come back and Rocksroy would be like, it's handled, no worries, got you in with the big 8, it's all good. I don't think so. And so, he made the obvious decision to save himself. Kudos to that. But we know people like Tori don't love him. We know that in the past he's been on the wrong side of the votes. He's often on the wrong side. He just doesn't really know what's going on a lot of times in the game. And so I can't give him a 6 in good faith like I would give high. And so I would probably give Rocksroy closer to a 5 because it was like a neutral episode for him. That yes, he found himself in the big alliance, but it wasn't to any of his doing. I also don't see a path to the end where he wins yet. It's like, what is he going to do is he going to now take the lead on this alliance of 8? Is he about to win a bunch of challenges? Is he going to now start orchestrating stuff? It's like, to this point, we haven't seen that ability. And so
he's going to herd some cats.
He's going to herding cats.
He's going to get it crack-a-lackin', Taran. But we just haven't seen it yet. So I would probably give Rocksroy a 5, and I'd leave Drea at a 6 for the same reasons that you outlined, but also because Drea is still a physical specimen. Eventually they're going to want to get a Jonathan out, a Drea out. They're keeping him around for right now for a shield, but I don't know if Drea has an extra strategy for that kind of thing. When does she stop being a shield and start making her own moves? And I don't think we've seen it yet.
Okay. Well, next for me, I'm gonna go with Lindsay.
Lindsay
at a 7, and also Jonathan at a 7. They're gonna be my 7s here. Reason being, for Lindsay, it's for me just still we barely see what Lindsay's strategy is. Most of what we got from her in this episode was related to the amulet and her relationship to Jonathan. We don't ever really get content from her about what her strategy is moving forward. And that's not to say that she doesn't have one. I'm sure she does, but I don't know what it is because the episodes do not want to show me what it is. So I'm still unsure about her overall, but I do like her position. She's part of this Taku group. Just orchestrated a coup. They should have been the targets. That seems to be where things were going initially when when Drea and Mike got together. It was like, oh, Ika and Vati getting together. There's 6 people. All they need is one more vote, and they can just take on Taku and run down with 6 people. But instead, Taku got involved and they took over and they protected one of their numbers. And now they have an extra vote. Omar can vote now. They've got an idol. And they still have this amulet from Lindsay. And they've got a tight, still pretty tight group together. 3 of them in the majority. That's the majority within, like, that's the majority. It's the plurality within the majority. And that's all very good. So I like all of their positions very much so, especially the ones in the majority. But Lindsay's the one I know the least about in terms of what her actual strategy is to get down to the end game. And then Jonathan, there were pros and cons. Again, like the position, like where he's at. Social game, clearly very good, winning over lots of people on the tribe, but remains a big target. He did have people like Romeo and Tori and Chanelle looking to vote him out. He was protected by his allies, and the majority kept him safe. So that's all very good. He passed the test, but the fact that he's being looked at and will likely continue to be looked at is going to limit his rating for me. So him and Lindsay both 7s. What do you think?
So I like the Lindsay 7 because I know that Lindsay's main objective from what we saw in this episode was to keep Jonathan safe. That, like, they came to her that Jonathan was, she's like, no, absolutely not. We're not doing that. And she ended up to getting what she wanted. And so, like you said, we don't know much about Lindsay, but we do know that Lindsay's name hasn't come up that much. She did get a vote. So there's something there. We got to vote for Lindsay. But my struggle is with Jonathan. And it's because for me, I don't know how much of this Jonathan actively did. Like, yes, they have a decent social game, but it's like, yes, Omar wanted to keep Jonathan around because Omar's been aligned with him since day one, and this is your shield. Lindsay wants to keep Jonathan along because they've been aligned since day one, and this is your shield. Drea's like, I can keep a shield. Like, everybody wants to keep a shield, but like, Jonathan, you are the shield. You know what I'm saying? Like, you are the first line of fire. When they start to attack that big group, from what we understand, Jonathan is the one who is going to take the bullet first. Aside from like Marianne, who doesn't have that, who isn't a shield, but just kind of like they made it this round. And so I'm struggling with giving Jonathan a 7. I do like that their social game doesn't seem to be a nothing. I do like that they are physical, but it's just really hard to be that huge and that physical and, and even that likable sometimes at the merge and not have any like real protection. How many times is Omar going to throw themselves out like on a limb for you to save you? I don't know if that's going to happen too many more times. And man, Omar probably doesn't need it to happen too many more times. What I would have loved is for Jonathan to have an idol. Then I would be able to confidently say, okay, cool. Because that shows me that if you don't win a challenge, you do got like a little backup going on. You got something in there, and he doesn't have any stuff. So I'm going to give Jonathan a 6, but I'll keep Lindsay at a 7 just because we haven't seen anything really negative about Lindsay.
All right, I like it. Last 2 people, Mike and Omar. For me, I really liked what Mike did in this episode. Again, I feel like we saw him making the most amount of like social connections to people. And I thought that was fantastic. Making a connection with Jonathan, with various people on this tribe, very quickly fit in, seems very entrenched in the power structure, seems like a very good and capable social player. I don't yet know exactly what his strategic chops will be moving forward, but I think that he is positioned to do very well. And I thought that he was very impressive. He has an idol. He was absolutely like not only making social bonds, but actively making strategic bonds as well. I'm going to give Mike an 8. I feel very good about Mike in this episode. I think he did a fantastic job here in the merge. And I think that he is definitely one to look out for moving forward.
I'm going to, it's tough for me to give a Mike type player an 8 because we know that like typically these people are getting by on social aspect and not a lot on strategy. But if you're social enough, you typically don't need, a strategy, like people just won't want to get rid of you, or you're able to bond with people where they don't feel like they have to. And it's like, in a way, the social feeds into the strategy, right? So he doesn't have to make a lot of flashy moves and like split the vote and all this other stuff because it's like his name's not coming up. One of the people who did bring his name up was, I think High in this episode was like, Mike is so far up Jonathan's ass, like that kind of thing. And it's like,
I think that was Romeo.
Yeah, Romeo, but it was to get at Jonathan, not at Mike, And so I'm like, that's good. I did draft Mike as well, and so I'm like, an 8 would be good for Mike. It's just like I don't know if you ever give somebody like Mike over an 8. What does he end up doing that would make me say, oh gosh, like this guy is going to win the game, unless it's like just being very social to the point where yeah, he's very obviously a jury threat. But I like what we've seen. I like how he handles the disagreements, even when like Chanelle is talking crazy to him about the vote. He's like, it's fine. We're all a family. Everything is good here. It's like, yes, that's exactly what you should be saying. Like you should really be telling her to go to hell. Like you tried to get me out in case it wasn't you. But also he's like, no, it's all good. Bygones be bygones. It's his family. And then subtly he starts making these connections with other people. So I think you sway me. I think I would give Mike an 8, but I just am as I follow along throughout this Stockwatch journey, I don't know if I'm ever going to get above an 8 for Mike.
And I think that's fair. I think that he had a very good merge performance here, but I don't know if he'll be able to maintain this level of rating unless he really starts to lock something in and we know what his end game plans are. But don't forget, he doesn't believe in a snow job. So
nope, not that. Big Daddy does not.
That, of course, leaves Omar as the top pick of the week, for me at least. I assume the same is for you. I think Omar had a great performance here in the merge episode. And like, not only does he have a great performance, he outmaneuvers High, who we to this point seems to be the best sort of player that we've seen in adverse situations. We know that High is very good, and Omar manages to outmaneuver him here. So great example of Omar being great at the game. His position is fantastic. We don't know if him pushing Lydia has done any damage to his game yet. We'll see. But as of right now, it seems like he accomplished his goal very smoothly. Even High is voting for Lydia at the end of this. So it seems like there's no hard feelings thus far. He manages to keep both Jonathan and Marianne in the game as shields to some degree, as numbers for him. That 4-person group. We're now at 11 people. 3 more people leave, and that's half the entire cast remaining. So add on top of that he does have lots of other options in this majority, outside of the majority if he wants. He's in a very good spot. I was very impressed with a lot of what he did here, and all of it without a vote. So very, very impressive stuff. I'm going to give Omar a 9. Very much like what he's doing, very much like his position moving forward, and I think he can win this thing.
Okay, I have a question for you. What would it take for you to give Omar a 10 at this point in the game?
I thought about that because I do think this was a very impressive week, and I did consider a 10. My biggest issue is that I still don't know enough about his overarching strategy. We heard from High about like setting himself up in a position to get to the end game. We heard from Omar more about like this as being a short-term move. And obviously there are long-term ramifications, especially like I can sort of like picture in my head how I think Omar will probably go about things. But I don't know about it. I think that Omar might deserve a 10, and I just didn't see enough to get it from him in this episode. But I just don't have enough of a history of Omar sort of like knowing exactly where he wants to move and how he wants to move. And then also, I think that ultimately, like, if not for the the Hourglass and the immunity win by Tori, this was probably an easy week where this move probably doesn't get made. So I think in some ways he's aided, and obviously I don't think you would say that he was aided by this. I mean, it's more like he faced adversity and he rose to the challenge, which I think is great. But I think that I'm just not quite ready to feel like I think he crushed it on many levels, but the stability of him as a player, as in this position, I'm not quite there at a 10 yet. I don't know that he will be able to maintain this. Like I said, I don't know the ramifications of this move quite yet. So yeah, that's me.
Gotcha. That makes sense. I'm not going to give Omar a 10 either because I look for someone who has a stranglehold on the tribe, right? Where the tribe is living and breathing on that person. Whether it's that person is the biggest threat and everybody keeps saying it and they just can't get them. Like maybe like a Ben Driebergen is like finding an idol every week. You know, it's like it's volatile, but if they keep doing it, they're going to win. Or like a Tom Westman where it's just nobody is going to uprise against this person. Like Boston Rob, you know, these moments of play where it's like, yeah, it's a flash. It's a good week for them, but also there is no bad week for them, you know, in the foreseeable future because no one is thinking about them. And with Omar, I think that a lot had to happen for him to be in this very flashy position. But this is the first really aspect of that we've seen. And so like next week, it could all go up in flames because we know that it took a lot to get here and there was a lot of social capital spent to make all of this happen. And so, yeah, he might have to pay that bill later on. So I can't give him a 10. But as far as like a week for Survivor, like a gameplay, this is like an all-time Survivor week for somebody. Like you don't have a vote and you manage to control who goes home without a vote, you know, and save all of your allies essentially and make somebody vote out their number one ally. So I was like, you can't really ask for much more. I would love to see Omar maintain this kind of hold on the tribe because I think it'd be fun to watch. But then you know how Survivor goes. When somebody starts to get like that, it's kind of makes the season boring. So you know, maybe some more adversity would be fun to see Omar navigate because if he can do this off multiple times, this is like the beginning of an all-time player. So a 9 for me as well. But I am a huge fan of what I just saw this week.
Yeah, and I think like and this is me, but like for me, like the rise to power is the 9 and the solidification of that power is the 10. Which like, you know, if you look back at a season and like this is the start of Omar crushing it, like you probably say this was the most impressive week for Omar, but like that's for me at least that's not how I would be rating in the Stockwatch like in the moment. Because for me, it's like locking that in next week that like really solidifies. Obviously, he got there because of this week, but then locking it in is what gets him the win and makes me more confident that he's going to win. So just some intricate. It's because we're also dealing with this, or I'm dealing with this at least with Big Brother Canada 10, with one of those players. I won't say who. But there's a player doing very well in that season as well, and he's doing very impressive things week to week, but he doesn't have like a locked in structure that he's definitely going to like win the game or anything. And so like I'm thinking about like if he ends up dominating the game and we look back at these weeks, we're going to think like these were 10 weeks like looking back at it, but in the moment there's too much uncertainty about where the game is going to go. So it's interesting.
Right, yeah, it's hard to have so many people left in the game and to have like a firm grasp on the game, like an in game at this point in Survivor history. You know, like now that there's so many changes, like Taran, in a few weeks from now, we could be talking about the do or die challenge, you know, and that could just upend everything. And so, you know, this far out, it's hard to say like this person has a path to the end. They can win. They have people who are just ready to like die on their sword for them to win. But this is such like a good beginning to a great story if he's able to pull it off. And if he's not, I think the person coming to mind that I couldn't think of at first is from Island of the Idols, Kelly Kim. She does like the really flashy move where she's like, I'm going to give my idol to this person and then I'm going to make them play it. And then we're going to secretly vote out like somebody else. And I'm going to give my idol to Dean and all this other stuff. Right. And she has this big flashy move. It's like the craziest move of the season. And then the very next week, people are like, shouldn't we get out Kelly? And it's like, no, you know. And so there were other factors, of course, at play in that season. But for me, like it's so far out that it's hard to give them a 10, but I really enjoy what Omar did.
Yeah. Well, that's the Stockwatch. We did it.
We did it.
This is not quite the longest Stockwatch because that title will go to Shannon's crossover episode. But the longest regular episode, I think we're covering 2 hours here. I think we still came in under 2 hours for a 2-hour episode. And I had so many sound clips that we had to get through them all. I had to leave some on the table. I had to be like, sorry, sound clip. Sorry, doo-doo sound clip. I can't use it. I just don't have the space.
Right. Look,
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying. Be fair to me here. Like, don't get me wrong, I can talk with the best of them, but we had a lot more content to talk about. So the fact that Shannon can outdo me with half the content that we had, it goes more to talk about, what a brilliant mind that Shannon is, and what a good team y'all are when y'all are together in this kind of situation. But I'm happy that I got to be in like one of the lengthier stock watches for Survivor.
Well, it was half the content, but it was double the podcast because we
Yeah.
had 2 different podcasts to do.
Exactly.
But yes, thank you so much for joining me here, Chappell.
Right. I've never done a stock watch with you, Big Brother or otherwise. So this is the first time. This was nice. I started looking around like I could get comfortable here. I like being able to control people's money. So
Yeah, there you go.
yeah, this is good. I like this. But thank you so much. It was a time of my life.
Awesome. Well, of course, make sure you tune in next week where I will be back for the Survivor Stock Watch to see what happens with Omar and everyone else as they move forward from the merge. You can also, of course, check out all the Big Brother coverage going on. Big Brother Stock Watch happens on Tuesday nights if you are interested in those. You can find me over on Twitter at Armstrong Taran or on Twitch, twitch.tv/Taran Armstrong, watching these episodes live with all of you. It's very fun to watch Survivor, especially because I don't know what's going to happen, unlike Big Brother. Check that out. Check out the Taran show with Gabby from Survivor, David versus Goliath. Had a great conversation with her. She talked about sort of her experience with Survivor and now years later how that impacts sort of like her day-to-day life and lots of other fun and interesting things there with Gabby. So check that out do all those things. Chappell, where can people find you?
People can follow me on Twitter at Chappell's_show, where I am tweeting about all of these reality TV shows, and I'm also tweeting out the other links of the podcast that I'm appearing on. And so if you want to get in touch with all the podcasting I'm doing, check me out on post-show recaps. I am still talking about The Walking Dead. Fear the Walking Dead is starting, and so we'll be covering that. Myself, AJ Mash, Jessica Leese, and Josh Wigler. I'm over on post-show recaps, also talking about Atlanta with Latanya Starks and Mari Forth. That's a good time. Recently, Puya and I wrapped up our coverage of Bel Air. So if you like the show Bel Air on Peacock, check that out on post-show recaps as well. And then every week on RHAP Has a Podcast, myself and Rob Cesternino are talking about Netflix shows. This week, we're talking about Formula One racing, Drive to Survive with our special guest, Amy Chan from Australia. And so it's going to be a good time. So check me out in all those places. Like, subscribe, give some star ratings, all that good stuff. And follow me on Twitter. It's a good time.
All right. Well, thank you all so much for joining us here this week. I'm going to get back to what I was doing before all of these episodes started, and I will see all of you next time.
Shut the front door. Yeah, bro.